Not working.
Predictably, the decision of the lawyers in Benin to withdraw legal services from kidnap and armed robbery suspects has begun to generate reactions, especially from members of the public. We have a few of such reactions.
Sometimes you see there are some people being labeled as criminals while they are not. So that is why it's still necessary for them to have lawyers to represent them on that aspect. But the other aspect, when a lawyer knows very well that this person is guilty, is a criminal or bandit or whatever, he shouldn't be backing him up.
It will be wrong on the part of the Nigerian Bar Association, especially Benin branch, to say that they will not represent the armed robbers or those who have found themselves in wrongful doing. But the only thing I want to say is that there are still some of these people who are probably victims of circumstance. So I will appeal to them. It's an appeal to the body to please resent their decision and go back again to the drawing board and take another decision in order for them to get appropriate representation.
The masses will now suffer because if they are not represented, nobody will fight their case. And many people out of ignorance will not go to any lawyer to say, help me. And if they are to take another lawyer from another state, it will cost them more money.
Despite he has been arrested as a robber, he has rights to stand before the court until the court declares such a person a convict, something like that. So in doing that, there should be a lawyer. That's why lawyers are trained.
It's a good thing because crime has been the problem of this country. Any part of the country where you go to, is either you are kidnapped, is either they take your belongings, is either they torture you. So I believe this thing that the Nigeria Bar Association has done will reduce crime.
Let's go now from Benin to Lagos. On Thursday, the 25th of April, the Lagos State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Mr. Adeniji Kazeem, and some members of his team met with journalists to give accounts of their stewardship as they count down to the end of the tenure of Governor Akinwumi Ambody.
The Solicitor General Permanent Secretary Ministry.
The venue is the conference room of the Lagos State Ministry of Justice, Alausa Ikeja. And in attendance here are directors and representatives of the different departments and units that make up the ministry, led by the state's Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Adeniji Kazeem, and the Solicitor General and Permanent Secretary, Mrs. Funlola Odunlami. The occasion is a media dialogue to give an account of their stewardship for the last 4 years. Members of the media are, of course, also present. The Attorney General reels out a list of programs which he says the justice sector in the state has experienced and which were aimed at giving Lagosians greater access to justice through dynamic law reforms and adherence to the rule of law.
Upon assumption of office as Attorney General, my first major assignment was to work towards the expansion and functionality of the mobile court in conjunction with the Lagos State Judiciary. Through the successful running of the mobile court system, we have been able to reduce street trading, traffic congestion, and unethical antisocial conduct on the road, as well as environmental nuisance, thereby improving the socio-economic well-being of residents of Lagos State. We recognize the importance of creating awareness of the laws that were being passed by the Lagos State House of Assembly. Therefore, we created a web portal where all laws and regulations of the Lagos State are available online. So far, the dedicated web portal is regularly updated with all the new laws and regulations, and has since its launch recorded an average of 100,000 users hits every month and over 10,000 downloads of the laws of the Lagos State. What this essentially has done is to make the laws available to people across the globe. We are all witnesses to how the activities of land grabbers, popularly known as Omonile, was almost stifling commercial activities in the state before we came on board. in order to reduce to barest minimum the activities of those notorious persons who use force and intimidation to dispossess or prevent any person or entity from acquiring legitimate interest and possession of property, we created the Lagos State Special Task Force on Land Grabbers, properly called Omonile Task Force, with the mandate to get rid of the state land grabbers. The task force has continued to receive petitions and has undertaken several criminal prosecutions against the land grabbers. The DNA Forensic Center is another landmark achievement of this administration that is worthy of being mentioned.
There were questions from the journalists about the criminal offenders database in the state, the effectiveness of the state's DNA Forensic Center, and how far the ministry had gone with the prosecution of persons responsible for the unfortunate Otedola Bridge fire disaster of June 27, 2018, which destroyed over 50 vehicles, caused gridlock for several hours, and resulted in the death of not less than 12 people.
Now, one of the challenges then was how to identify the perpetrators of that crime. We had said, okay, the driver and the owner needed to be identified. There were all kinds of theories out there, whether the driver had perished in the fire. But the owners, as you understand, the police traced the owners to Kano. And the whole idea was that, look, at the end of the day, they complete their investigation and get us a file here in the ministry. Unfortunately, we can't do the investigation ourselves, and get us a file so we can commence a prosecution process. Unfortunately, that process has not yet been concluded, or is not conclusive yet. Until we get that file, we cannot proceed with prosecution, as you well know. But these disasters are things that we take very, very seriously. Whether you call it a disaster about some of the extrajudicial killings that have happened, we consider that as a disaster in some sense, because you're taking a human life of the citizens. But we've tried to be very aggressive on prosecution. As you well know, we are prosecuting the guys who caused the Lekki collapse. Of course, the synagogue is ongoing. The extrajudicial killings that happened, we're also awaiting the files. We can only wait for those files to get there, so it doesn't appear we are on a witch hunt, so to speak. We have to wait for them to go through that process. But I want to assure you that this Otedola Bridge disaster will not be swept under the carpet. Once we get the facts properly of an investigation, we will commence the process of prosecuting those suspects in that matter.